Hello and welcome to DCD Transporters. Thanks for joining me today. It's a little bit of a workshop chat, this one. So our van behind us, about a year ago, we lowered it a little bit more than what it was. So originally it was on a set of Bilstein Comforts, and then we changed from the Bilstein Comforts into some Solo lows, and then started to get loads of problems. The thing with these T6.1s is some of the gearboxes, drivetrain configuration doesn't like going particularly low, and it starts to bind up the drive shafts, and that's exactly what we found. So today we're going to change the drive shafts on this. Transporter HQ has just brought out their new shortened ones, and we have been waiting to fit them on the van now for quite some time. So let's get to it, and we'll show you what you need to do to get those drive shafts swapped over. So this is our van, T6.1. Like I said, just over a year ago, we swapped out from the Bilstein Comforts into a set of Solo lows, and that's when we did a few other mods as well. We did the hub mod as well as shaved top mounts, and the van has the potential to run very low as a static. So I wanted to get it sitting just as I wanted, with the tyres just tucked into the fronts of the arches, same again with the rears. But at that ride height, we were coming into loads of issues with the drive shafts. So now we've got the shortened drive shafts, we're going to swap them over. I'm not going to change the ride height just for now, because we did have to lift it up a little bit. And because it's on its winter wheels, I'm just going to leave that ride height as it is until we get back to summer. And then we'll swap onto our 20s, and then we'll bring the ride height back down to suit. But for now, let's just swap the drive shafts over and we'll see what we've got. Give yourself about an hour. It's not particularly a difficult job. Driver's side drive shaft is pretty easy, and the passenger side is also equally as easy. They're just slightly different in the way that you need to take them off, but both are pretty easy to do, like I said. So we're not using the ramp today, just going to do it on the workshop. So get yourself a decent jack, axle stands obviously critical, and glasses, because you're under the van. Invariably bits want to fall down, muck and whatever, debris and stuff, so make sure you've got a decent pair of glasses on. And yeah, let's get to it. I'll show you what you need tool wise, and we'll go from there. So this is a rough idea of what you're going to need. So we've got some sockets, a couple of extensions, going to need some spline bits. We've got some skinny splines as well, my wheel peg tool. Our wheel bolts are on a 17mm, so you might need a 17 or a 19 depending on whether you're running factory wheels or factory style bolts. We did have some spares of the drive shaft retaining hub nuts, but the Transporter HQ ones come with those, so you don't need that. But you will need a 30mm multi-spline socket for these to fit. So if you see this one here, it's a multi-spline 30mm. You're going to need that for those. We've got a punch, flat punch, so like a drift, and a hammer, and that's just to help get the drive shaft out of the hub. So just want to give them a little tap. Once you've undone the nut, give them a little tap. Make sure you're not going to damage the splines on it, so you use a blunt one, sort of drift on there. Just give them a little tap and then they'll come out. We've got a couple of different sort of impact guns. We've got the smaller impact gun to get into the drive shaft bolts, the 13mm that holds the driver's side on, and the adapter which will then go with the spline. And you're definitely going to want to have an impact gun, a decent impact gun, to get the hub nuts off, your wheel bolts, and your multi-splines that undo the lower ball joint. So you'll definitely want one of those for that. And then of course when you're done, torque wrench, get the wheel bolts back to where they were. Just had enough so it's turned itself off, but 180 Newton meters is what the wheel bolts should be. So get that torqued up once they're all back in. But yeah, not too many tools. This is a really nifty little thing. We'll show you that in use. Stops you from damaging your alloy wheels. Lovely little locator peg. But yeah, so you're not going to need a lot, but that's a good idea of what you should have before you start. So this is pretty interesting here. This is the Transporter HQ drive shaft. Looks really good. We've just literally unwrapped it in quite a stout box, so that's pretty decent. And in this box in front of me is a genuine VW drive shaft. Now, I ordered this some time ago because we have been expecting ours to expire. It's amazing that really it's lasted a year of some really probably quite high abuse. So I bought a spare one, not expecting the original one to last, and that to sort of really destroy itself. So what I'm going to do here is compare the two drive shafts together, so you can see an original drive shaft versus the Transporter HQ drive shaft. So in fairness to Transporter HQ, theirs is actually packaged better than the VW one. The VW one's just sort of loose in the box, but you know it's okay. It's in there. I'm not really, you know, that's going to be neither here nor there. But already I can see this is a bit shorter on the THQ shaft. But let's get them both out, and then we'll be able to compare them side by side. So here they are next to each other. You can already see that one is a lot shorter. That is significantly shorter on there, leaving quite a bit of space for the drive shaft to articulate at that end there. So a considerable bit shorter. So let's have a look at the sort of like end spines there. Transporter HQ one on the right, OE one on the left. I think you can see, you'll see like the OE one is very slightly different in terms of sort of just finish, but overall I think the quality of the Transporter HQ one is really up there. It's pretty decent, to be honest. I'm really happy with the castings, the end shaft, you know, and the splines on that. I think they're quite nicely made. I think that's pretty good. There's some small variances in terms of where the flange meets on there. It's flush on the VW one, it's not on that. It's not going to cause any issues, but there are obviously some slight differences in manufacturer style. But yeah, overall I think it's going to be pretty good. I can't wait to get it on. This has been way too long, as we said, you know, waiting for this to come out. The reason why we bought this one, like I said earlier, we've had this genuine one sitting here waiting for us to pretty much destroy the old one. I've been waiting for it to let me down. It still keeps soldering on. It makes a lot of noise. It does grumble a lot, but it does still keep soldering on. So a testament to the original one and the amount of abuse we've put it through. But yeah, can't wait to get this shortened one on. In the videos, I think it was either Mikey or Mitch that was trying to explain why you get the drive shaft binding up. Now, what's actually happening is, as you see, but the length of this one, when it's on the suspension, and the suspension is therefore in its ride height on a lowered van, it's actually compressing these parts in. So it doesn't allow them to articulate very nicely. And it's that articulation which, when it gets squashed, the balls then aren't moving nicely in the cage. So inside here, there's also a series of balls that run round in that universal joint, that CV joint. It's constant velocity joint, CV stands for, but it's obviously it has a race which the balls sit in, and when you compress that up, they can't move freely. So at the minute, obviously in its uncompressed state, it moves really nice. On the van, with the suspension down, it's obviously compressing the shaft in, actually moving it in. So therefore, that's why it's all jamming up. What I'm hoping to do is get the original one out of the van, and we'll clean it all up, and we'll look to see, one, what damage we've done to it, and, you know, was it literally on its last legs, or is it surviving okay? And two, then you'll be able to see exactly why it's jamming up and what's actually happening to the van when you get that rumble. But yeah, look at the difference. That's quite something. Like I said, not so much there, but it's definitely shorter. We put those two together, you can see this one significantly, and that's what's going to give us the freedom of movement on the suspension when the van's lowered down. So excellent, let's get them swapped over. So these are the passenger ones. So the front one's the Transporter HQ shaft, and you can see it is a fair bit shorter, and the one behind is the original one off the van, which I've just removed. We didn't have a spare for that one because the passenger side doesn't, well, we've not noticed it grumble anywhere near as badly as the driver's side. So we wanted to replace them both anyway, and it makes sense to, if the driver's side is giving us loads of issues at the ride height that we're running, I don't see why the passenger is going to be any different. So it's good that we can change them both at the same time. The quality of the THQ shaft is, again, very nice. Happy with those. Everything looks and feels like it's really nice quality. Again, comes with the hub nut. So really pleased that they send it in with them. We do have them, but it just saves us from having to get them from VW. And the VW one doesn't come with it. So you do have to order those separately. So it's nice that the THQ ones are there in the box for you. Well, actually, it was on the end of the shaft, but we have removed that for fitting. So now about to fit these in. They are different to the driver's side, so you do have to remove the 6 spline bolts that are on the inner CV, whereas the driver's side just locates with the little bearing bracket with the two 13 mils. This one, you are going to need a skinny spline to get in there and remove those. So that's not too bad a job. So let's get it in the van. So this is the drive shaft removed from the van. So as you can see, that's the output shaft from the gearbox, and that looks pretty tidy. There's nothing untoward going on there, so we've not destroyed that or ruined that in any way. I wasn't expecting to, but yeah, that's pretty good. Really easy to get to this point, and a very simple change. I highly recommend you doing it. So there we go, that's the passenger side one in. So if we just get the light down there, you'll see, you're looking down towards like the gearbox end, you'll see there, I've reused the VW splines, spline bolts that is, with the original washers. I just prefer those. So nothing wrong with the other ones that come with the kit, but they're an Allen key and I just prefer the splines. So I've reused the VW ones going back in with their washers. So that's everything in and in place. So let's get the van down and we'll go and give it a try. While we're here, I was just going to show you this other little gadget. If you don't have one of these for locating your alloy wheels, you really should go and get one. They are absolutely brilliant. That just enables you to line up the holes correctly with your alloys, and it also stops you from dropping the wheel onto the caliper and the heat shield, which you can, and obviously you don't want to ruin your really lovely wheels and put a scratch on them. So with one of these little locating pegs, you just wind that in and then slide the wheel over that, either to remove or to put back on. They're absolutely brilliant, so well worth getting one of those. But we'll do all the tools together so you can see what we've got. Okay, so the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So let's go and take it for a drive and we'll see what it's like. Already, as we got it out of the workshop, steering definitely feels a lot lighter and a lot better. So it doesn't feel like it's been nipped in quite so much as what it was. So let's see what it's like when we get it round the roundabouts. The worst one on this van was going left. So as we were turning left, it was most definitely binding up. But straight away, I can feel like it's just not quite as nipped up and tight as what it was. So already it's feeling pretty good. So let's see if we can get it across the roundabout. Yeah, no good. Of course, as we were going round the bends and corners before, as the suspension compressed and we were making a left turn, that's when the CV joint was really starting to bind up a lot, and that's when you'd get the vibration and noise coming through the van as the, like I said, those balls inside the cage, as they're trying to twist and move to allow that CV joint to rotate, they were just binding up and they weren't really behaving very nicely. So that's a bit of a corner into there, and yeah, definitely feeling like it's much better. So let's see if we can find some more sweet bends. It's pretty grotty weather outside, so we've got some very noisy wipers. Yeah, so it's not like we can push on very hard. Yeah, let's get around here and see how that feels. Definitely loads better. At this point on the roundabouts, as it was, you know, taking a little bit of body roll, it was certainly binding up. It's not doing that. So as a result, I think we're going to be able to lower it down quite a fair bit more, especially when we get the 20s on, and that'll be really nice. So I think that's mission accomplished. So if we look at the drive shaft here, it's actually the inner that seems to have been affected the most rather than the outer. That still feels okay. This one definitely, if you can hear that, not so good. So this is what we were talking about earlier. When the suspension is compressed, it doesn't allow this to articulate nicely. When it's pushed out, then it can move quite well, that was how it would sit as standard. That's obviously been compressed in, so it'll be interesting to see what damage has been done to the inside of that. So this is the CV joint. If you've never seen one before, they're quite an engineering sort of masterpiece, really. So shaft having the splines on the end, which holds this little sort of star-looking key, which is then machined to take the ball bearings at a diagonal sort of angle. And then you've got the race that sits in the middle, and then the ball bearings that also take the load, and then the outer CV as well. Now, obviously, all that moves. As you can see, it articulates, can move in and out, and obviously it's going to be able to move a full sort of rotation round. So as the drive shaft is moving up and down, and it's also turning, it's spinning at the same time, that all has to remain sort of flexible, so you can transfer the power to your wheels. So it's taken quite a lot of force. So as you see, I've sort of cleaned it as much as we can there, but we've got a lot of articulation sort of happening there. But when we've lowered the van, we've obviously pulled that in a little, because the drive shaft is now more compressed, because the angle that the drive shaft is running is now a lot straighter. So instead of running a relatively sort of steep angle, so therefore it's going to be a little bit longer, it's now running almost straight, so it's pulling this drive shaft in. As it's doing that, obviously that angle is then going to start limiting what this can turn, and you can already hear that's started to knock on this one. So this is the original drive shaft that's come out of my fan, and I'm actually surprised it's in as good a condition as what it is. It's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be fair. I thought I was going to see a lot more marking on the inside of it. It really hasn't. So yeah, it's survived, but obviously not that great to be running at those sort of angles with this particular length of drive shaft. So certainly the right thing to be doing by putting the shortened one in there. It's going to help no end. So yeah, overall, not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, as in the condition of this. And yeah, the ones from Transport HQ are certainly nice looking quality. So thanks for joining me on this little workshop video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do give us a thumbs up if you have. And obviously thanks goes out to the Transporter HQ team, Andy in particular, for pushing these through. We have been waiting for ages, patiently, I might add, although it has been, oh Christ, since we did all the modifications to the van, I think it's been about 18 months we've been waiting to get these. We did threaten to try and do some ourselves, but the research in doing them, and you can see why it's taken Transport HQ so long to get them done, is, yeah, there's a lot of faffing around. So thank you very much for getting them sorted out, and thank you all for watching. Like I said, if you have enjoyed the video, please do give us a thumbs up. It is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button so you can get notifications when we bring out all our videos. So, but in the meantime, do take care, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Ta-ra.